Hello, we are here. I'm here. What's up? All right, get myself situated. So, Vanessa, you can let me know if there's any issues with the audio. I'm not going for perfection today, but let me raise this up a bit. Hello, everybody. So, it is Super Bowl Sunday. I am absolutely, completely uninvested in this game. I haven't cared about football for a long time, but I'm a Cowboy girl at heart just because I grew up watching the Cowboys. My dad was a huge Cowboy fan. And of course, he was a fan when they were winning those Super Bowls with Jimmy Johnson, like the golden years. And then Jerry Jones fired Jimmy Johnson in what many think was an act of self-destructive egotism. But anyway, fired Jimmy Johnson, and then basically the team went downhill after that, didn't it? So anyway, Cowboys they've not been good in a long time. Rest in peace to the Cowboys. But yeah, I don't really follow football anymore, but I will say this. I think football is so much more interesting than basketball or baseball or soccer football. I think it's so much more interesting than that because you can have these huge momentum shifts in a football game that you can't have in as much in basketball or soccer, football, or whatever, right? So I don't know. I'm kind of bored when I go to a basketball or a soccer game or a baseball game. Baseball just seems to move as slow as molasses. But football, I do when I make myself sit down and when I have a reason to sit down and watch a game. Even now, I really enjoy it. So we'll see if I'll watch the Super Bowl or not. Not going to see though Blake Lively hopping up and down, holding her bestie this time. Will we? So I did get some pushback. By the way, hello to my mods. I see Laura B saying hello and audio good. Thank you, Laura B. So today we've got Laura B and we've got Vanessa on as mods. And of course, also at times have Rebel Bird and my bestie, AJ. So shout out to everybody. But yeah, we're not going to be seeing Blake Lively in the Super Bowl box with Taylor Swift. And I did get some pushback, a bit of pushback online to what I was saying the other day. Oh, and by the way, someone is working on their house next door. So you probably will hear some kind of mechanical sounds. Just have to deal with it. There's probably some way that I can calibrate the microphone so that that's not an issue, but not today. Not today. Anyway, so I got some pushback on what I was saying the other day about those photos that I showed on my Twitter of Taylor Swift and Blake Lively, clutching each other at the Super Bowl a year ago. And then also the photos of them holding hands as they're going in to eat or a nightclub or something like that. And I actually got a shout out. Look, let me tell y'all, I am getting regular shout outs by the account Leave Heard Alone, one of the main Amber Heard defending accounts. And I'm getting regular shout outs by this account. And I guess that they think that that's hurting me in some way. But actually, it's just more street cred for me. Because every time that happens, I'll have people messaging me, telling me, and people in the Johnny Depp community, the Justice for Depp community, seem to love making fun of that, ridiculing that account. So it's no skin off my back. Leave Heard Alone. You want to keep mentioning me. It just helps me. Whereas you, every time Blake Lively comes out of your mouth or out of your keyboard, you're hurting Blake Lively, right? And I'm very, very sure, Leave Heard Alone, that every time you tweet something in support of Blake Lively in any way, that her team cringes. Because the last fucking thing that Team Lively wants to be associated with is Amber Heard. So anyway, but I'm getting regular shout outs from this account, and this account reposted my post from the other day where I was calling out the hand holding and the clutching each other at the Super Bowl as being performative. And that account said that I apparently have, or no, is it tell me you have no female friends without telling me? Yeah. So look, to each his own in terms of opinions, but I will just say this. I've been around a lot of women. And I do have more friends than you probably think I do. And even if I didn't, I observe around me, I walk around a lot. I see other female friends. There's a college actually right next to me. Like, yes, I see lots of adult women walking around, and I never see them holding hands unless, honestly, they're teenagers or they're very like immature college girls who are trying to make some kind of an impression on people around them, or just blasted out of their minds drunk. Now, neither Blake Lively nor Taylor Swift, when they were holding hands or clutching each other, looked blasted out of their minds drunk. I just think it's performative. I just do. If you're a straight woman, an adult woman, a fully adult woman, and you're going around with your friend holding hands and clutching them, in public events, I just think it's a little performative. But whatever. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's happening all the time in your worlds, ladies. So I don't know. But I do appreciate getting the shout out from that account. And like I said, they do it pretty often. And every time they do it, I'm thinking, oh, that's great. This just gives me more credibility. So hello to everybody. I am going casual again today, but you'll notice that my skin has improved. The splotchiness from the laser procedure has improved. I still have some places, less visible actually to you all than in person, but I still got some splotches here and there. And but the point is, looks like it's healing, so I won't have to sue my sort of father-in-law. So that's fortunate. Won't have to sue him for giving me grayscale. Now, somebody said at my work yesterday, I went to work at my normal job. I'm a server. And I went to work yesterday and someone said to me, you look great. You look fresher and younger, but it still looks like you. And I was like, oh, well, you're not supposed to see anything yet. You're not supposed to see any improvement yet. It does cause, so I got what's known as the laser is a dot, and it's a dot fractional, partially ablative laser procedure. And so a fractional, what this means, and I'm not going to talk about this much right now, but if you want me to talk about it at the end, I can. But basically what they do is they have this laser that it only basically incinerates a fraction of your skin. So that's why it's partially ablative, as opposed to something fully ablative where they go over your face with the entire razor and they basically take off like the entire top layer of your skin. And the idea being that it causes a healing response. It's controlled injury. Most laser procedures, not all, but many of them work, and chemical peels the same way, through controlled injury, inflicting a controlled injury on the skin, so that then the skin is like, holy shit, something's wrong here. We just got burned or whatever. And we need to go into overdrive producing collagen and producing new elastin if you're getting laser stuff like I did that penetrates to a deeper level. And so it's the afterward of these laser procedures, sometimes weeks, months. Some people are continuing to see improvement well into the first year. That's when actually there's improvement to the skin. So yes, on these procedures, a number of them, not all of them, some of these laser procedures, and like with chemical peels, yes, your skin will go through an initial peeling or partial peeling. And so I'm having like flaking and stuff like that. But the real effect is then what's happening over the course of days, weeks, months, right? So anyway, I'll talk more about the skincare thing. I really am seriously going to do a video because I get so many people asking me about this, and there's so many opinions on it and stuff, but I have done a lot of research. I do have my sort of father-in-law who does this for a living and was really a pioneer, actually. He was the first person to bring it to East Texas, honestly, in the ways that he does. But anyhow, but also I've done a lot of reading on this. You should always do your own Googling, always do your own research, because doctors never know everything. Some of them don't know a lot. And also people have individual reactions to their skin. And also there's a lot of stuff that they just don't have time to tell you in an office visit. God bless their hearts. I get it. They're busy. But you should always research whatever you're doing to yourself in any way, research it. So you know the score, so to speak. Anyways, let's see. I got a super chat here. Dan, what's up? Start calling mods the mod squad. Can't watch the whole live stream. Leave her alone is a nice sentiment if they're just saying let her be now that she's no longer relevant and not abusing anyone. Yeah, I don't, I think that they came about though during the trial, didn't they? So I think theirs is more of a long-term complaint. But anyway, I understand you can't watch the whole thing. Don't worry. It's Super Bowl. And so that's why we're not going to have a ton of people on this thing anyway, but appreciate all of y'all. Okay, so back to the celebrity stuff we wanted to talk about. I'll talk about the skincare stuff maybe more at the end, and I am going to do a video on it and put it out because a lot of people have been asking me about things. Okay, so Blake Lively not going to be the Super Bowl. Now, Justin Baldoni, apparently, he has a new podcast coming out, or I should say he was a guest on a podcast. And can someone remind me in the chat? I'm not trying to slight them. I've just forgotten the name. It was something Gent. Is it Good Gent? Or I don't know. Somebody put it in the chat if you know. What is the name of the podcast that Baldoni went on? Now, apparently he did not go on this recently. He went on this podcast before the legal action began. So before Blake Lively filed her first complaint. But it does appear, they're teasing us, of course, which is fine, good for them. But it does appear that he is going to discuss some of the difficulties that he's been through in the making of this movie, and that he does at one point appear to, at least in the teaser, the preview, kind of tear up or get emotional or what have you, right? So we'll see. Maybe they're just doing a really good teaser and he actually doesn't get into it very much, but it's possible that he does. Again, this was filmed before any legal action had been taken, so it'll be interesting to see. And oh, thank you, Cookie Star. That's sweet of you. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely talk more about it. So when does the game actually start? I don't know. I think in a couple of hours. Let's see. It's 3:00 where I am right now. I remember it generally, I think, starting at 6 or 6:30 my time. So that would be 7 or 7:30 Eastern is when it's going to start. We're definitely not going to be around then. But anyway, okay, so Blake Lively not going to be there. Justin Baldoni did this podcast. And will I show the clip? Yeah, I can find it. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Let me find the clip. Okay, here we are. I've got it. Sorry, I know that's shaking. Okay. All right, so this is the Daily Mail page. And I'm going to play this. You should be able to hear it.
Outback Steakhouse has a 3-course meal.
Intense year.
Here we go. I'm going to play it.
I had a
Oops, sorry.
intense year. This morning I sent a text message. I had anxiety.
Why is that?
I haven't talked about this yet, but
That's quite a teaser. Okay, gents talk. Man, don't you know that when all of this stuff with Baldoni really started picking up steam, like the last month, don't you know that this Gents Talk podcast was probably like, oh my God, we're sitting on a gold mine. So definitely kudos to them. Sometimes you just get lucky. You do an interview or something, or you do a video on a topic, and then the situation kind of blows up and you're like, whoa. It's kind of like that time, y'all. Well, it's not kind of like it. It's really not very much like it, but it reminds me of that time when I got a tip. I heard through the grapevine that Evan Rachel Wood had lost custody of her child. And of course, if you look into all of that and you look at the Tennessee court documents and everything, like the things that Jamie Bell, the father of her child, say about her, I mean, it's just another set of indications of how messed up she is or was or what have you, right? And of course, also those Tennessee court hearings is where Evan Rachel Wood originally submitted that forged FBI document that she and her co-conspirator thought up and typed up. And so anyway, it's just there's really a gold mine, a treasure trove of information and accusations in that whole custody battle between Jamie Bell and Evan Rachel Wood. But I heard through the grapevine from a reputable source that Evan Rachel Wood had lost custody of her child. And so I went ahead and announced it. Again, it's relevant because it goes to her character and in this whole Marilyn Manson MeToo hoax saga. And also it's another person close to her, Jamie Bell, who's saying that she is delusional and manipulative and that she lies. But anyhow, So I said this publicly, and I did get some shit for it. And some people were saying you shouldn't put this out here. This is gossip, and I was above board about the fact that it was a source that I couldn't attribute it to, but it was someone that I thought was credible. Anyway, I got some blowback, and then Evan Rachel Wood herself then announced several days later. She announced that she had, or leaked to the press that she had lost primary custody of her child, except she claimed that she had voluntarily given it up. So she was trying to get ahead of that little story. So I like to say that basically I forced Evan Rachel Wood to come out and admit that. And of course she gave the most bizarre series of explanations for it. So I even went on a podcast about narcissism to talk about her experience with the narcissist Marilyn Manson. And then she got into having to explain why she had, according to her, given up custody of her child, even though the child then, once she lost custody, went to live primarily with the father, who lived even closer to Marilyn Manson than Evan Rachel Wood did. So it really made no sense. I'm so scared of Marilyn Manson that I'm going to give up my child and have my child go live with someone who lives closer to Marilyn Manson. And of course, also it made no sense that she was afraid, because Evan Rachel Wood herself featured her child prominently in a multi-part documentary takedown of Marilyn Manson. So, if you're so afraid that your child is going to be targeted by Marilyn Manson fans or apologists, or by Marilyn Manson himself, why are you promoting that child? Why are you putting that child prominently in multiple scenes, making that child actually the focus of multiple scenes in a documentary takedown of Marilyn Manson? Makes no sense. But anyway, don't ask for sense from these ladies. As we know with Blake Lively, it's not there. Just a lot of manipulation and excuses. So anyhow, Justin Baldoni, so he did this podcast. So we will see, y'all. It comes out Monday or Tuesday? They just told us February 10th, and we will see what he actually says. It would be really interesting, though, if he did go into some detail about his negative experience on that set. I doubt that he will call out Blake Lively specifically in that. That doesn't seem his style. But I do think that he probably, in this interview, and again, remember it was taped a while back, it would be interesting if he did talk about some specific dynamics on set or the difficulties that he's been through in the last year. But I don't know, they might be teasing us. He might end up just talking about how hard it's been to be away from his family, right? Because we have text now as a part of his lawsuit indicating that his beloved wife, Emily, while Baldoni was shooting this movie with Blake Lively and doing post-production and really going through the shit with her, his wife was at home basically saying, when is this going to be over with? We need you here. It's so hard here without you. And Baldoni, you could see in the text, his heart was breaking over this. He even says at one point, he's in a discussion about Blake Lively stuff and post-production, production of the film. And he says, I've got to go. Emily just left a 5-minute voice note for me. She's crying about how hard things are without me. Like, you can see that Baldoni really cares about his wife and that is his priority. He's like, okay, this Blake stuff, this movie stuff, it's going to have to go on the back burner now. I've got to call my wife. She needs help, right? So good for him. Anyhow, though, we'll see what he ends up saying, but it'll be interesting to see that. My advice to Baldoni has always been, do not speak on this stuff now that there are lawyers who can speak for you, and now that you have social media on your side. And I know that this is different advice than I gave, for instance, to Marilyn Manson, because I thought at the time that his situation was so much more dire, that he had just been completely canceled. It turns out that I was wrong about that, because look at what a great comeback he has had and how successful he is right now. He's in Switzerland now, right? Starting a sold out European tour. But at the time, I really thought that he was just done, and I didn't see how he was going to start to dig his way out of that without actually doing some aggressive PR. And so, as it turns out, he didn't need to. I still think that one day we'll hear from him about everything that he has been through, and I think that'll be really interesting. And then also, he's got big ventures on the horizon, and he's doing big things. So good for him. But I did want him to speak out. Baldoni, though, he has the public completely on his side, with the exception of a few people who don't buy his story. It's the same people who support Amber Heard and those types, right? You're always going to have some people on the other side who just can't see the light. But the vast majority of the public are on Baldoni's side. He doesn't need to publicize his situation anymore, I guess is what I'm saying, because the narrative has already shifted so heavily in his favor. And so my concern with Baldoni doing any interviews while this stuff, during the next year or so that it's being litigated and hashed out. My concern with him doing interviews is that he could come off to some people as in a negative way, right? Right now, he has this very positive perception of him because he hasn't come out and said anything lately. But you know that as soon as you start talking, there's some people who get turned off by it. And there's still people who have this perception of him as this Chad type who's like faking being spiritual and feminist and all that, but he's really just a narcissistic actor and so forth, right? And I'm not saying this is what I think, but I'm saying this is the impression that some people get that can be problematic for him. And so as soon as he comes out and starts talking about this situation, if he laughs or smiles about it or has any kind of a human reaction that doesn't strike people exactly right, then he's going to get called out to some degree for that. So I just think, and I continue to tell Baldoni, focus on your craft, focus on your work. If you have projects in the pipeline, keep working on those. If you've gotten so canceled that you don't have projects in the pipeline, then find projects, get pictured doing charity work. I don't care, whatever, right? But just don't sit down and start doing interviews because there's nothing to be gained by that for you, right? Maybe once all this is over and you've been vindicated or stuff has been settled or whatever, of course, then yeah, but not right now. So anyway, but this interview was done in the past. And so we'll see what he says. It'll be interesting. Now, what else with Baldoni? Oh, I see I got a chat. Dan Campbell says AIs aren't perfect yet, but they're extremely useful as a second opinion. Yeah, and I'm not just talking about AI. I'm talking about the full, but I'm talking about the full range of go look at the Reddit boards, go look at Quora, different pages and so forth. Look at studies and stuff. It takes time and it can be annoying, but you have to dig. And like, this is one reason why I don't want to get a radio frequency treatment on my skin, even though that's another option, is because in some people, radio frequency treatments causes volume loss, causes fat loss, fat shrinkage. It can also happen very, very rarely with some laser procedures, but radio frequency is known to have this as more of a possible side effect. So I don't do those kinds of, I don't use those kinds of machines or get those kinds of treatments. Now, that's not to say others shouldn't, but it's just everybody has to everybody has to be in charge of their own care, so to speak, right? Whether we're talking about elective stuff or we're talking about serious things. And I've just known too many cases with too many doctors, not talking about my father-in-law here, but too many cases with too many doctors where I found something online and I was aware of it and they weren't. Like I remember when I had this is just one of many examples, when I had really bad acid reflux years ago and my doctor put me on Nexium. And whenever I would take the Nexium, I would feel kind of drunk. It was so weird. I would feel drunk. It was a negative feeling. So I don't like feeling drunk. And I would feel kind of like dizzy and a little bit out of my mind and sluggish every time I would take the Nexium. And so I said this to my doctor and he was like, there's no way this is doing this to you. And then I even had a friend who was a pharmaceutical rep for Nexium. And I said, this is how this makes me feel. And she's like, no. Well, then I actually looked up the literature. I actually looked into it. And did you know that there is a tiny subset of people who, when they take Nexium, they get all the symptoms that I was having? And I told the doctor, I told my friend who was the pharma sales rep, they both were a little embarrassed, but that's just how it is, y'all. People just don't have time to keep up with everything. And so you got to be in charge of your own healthcare to a degree. So anyway, moving on. Okay. Thank you for that, Dan. What else? Baldoni and what am I skipping over? Anything interesting? What's up in the chat? Cindy says, I like what you said in your previous video. These women are such egomaniacs. They don't even consider the possibility that these men would fight back, that they would roll over and die. Yeah, I guess because they're so used to getting their way by being pushy, by being manipulative. And then it does seem like Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer, they did roll over a lot. Like they really were pushed about as far as they could be pushed. But it gets to a point when you back someone into a wall, she was literally trying to cancel them, right? Back them into a wall. Then you create the most dangerous situation, which is someone with nothing to lose. And once you've done that, my gosh. I mean, that's the thing. I see people online making these threats to content creators now that, ooh, you're going to get sued because apparently Megan Thee Stallion, is that how you say it? I don't even know how you say her name, but Megan the Stallion or The Stallion or whatever. Apparently she's suing a blogger, a content creator for saying some stuff about her that turned out not to be true. And And so I see these threats online, people threatening me and various other content creators saying, "Ooh, watch here, this creates a precedent. Now you're going to get sued." Motherfucker, bring on the lawsuits. Bring it on. That's going to be the best day of my life is when I get sued by Evan Rachel Wood or Blake Lively or any of these other clowns. Do you know why? First of all, I have no money. So there's nothing that you can take from me. It's called being judgment proof. Secondly, I am going to, if I get sued by one of these people, I'm going to turn it into a giant opportunity. Imagine the street cred that gives me, the fame, whatever it is these people think that I'm looking for, I'm going to get it if one of these people sues me. And I'm going to get a good attorney. And you say how? I have means. I have a way. I have a friend. I get a good attorney, and I'm going to study the law myself, and I am going to drag these people through the courts, embarrassing them at every turn. I'm going to make everything that I can public. I'm going to start a show, and the title of the show, it'll be a daily stream, and I'll call it Evan Rachel Wood Sued Me or Blake Lively Sued Me. And every day we're going to go through updates in my legal battle with these women. Bring it on. Not even afraid of that. Not even afraid of that. And the other reason that I'm not afraid of it is because I've got truth on my side. It sounds like Megan Thee Stallion was actually being defamed by this person who was telling lies about her, because I haven't looked into the Megan Thee Stallion thing, but it looks to me like the woman was actually that she was telling the truth, right? And so, yeah, if you're a blogger or a content creator and you're out there promoting lies, then you have more to worry about. But in my case, if Blake Lively or Evan Rachel Wood sued me, then what's going to happen is I now have the opportunity to have a court litigate the truthfulness of their claims. And so if Evan Rachel Wood wants to say that I'm defaming her by saying that she is a lying hoaxer who committed this MeToo hoax against Marilyn Manson, then she, in order to prove defamation, is going to have to prove that that's not true, or that I don't have legitimate reasons for saying that or thinking that. And so guess what then? Then the lawsuit becomes about whether or not she really did scam the public, whether or not she really did do all of this shit to Marilyn Manson, and ditto for Blake Lively. So ladies, if any of you want to initiate any kind of court proceedings against me, just know I welcome it, and I will take every opportunity to expose you in every way I can and to force a court in every way possible to litigate the merit of your claims. Thank you. All right. Anyways, moving on. Got a super chat from Rebel from the Waist Down. Yeah, Manson fan. Shout out to the Manson attorney, Howard King. Lawyer the fuck up. Howard King he was Marilyn Manson's attorney. He was great in that documentary. The documentary that just came out in the UK, the Channel 4 documentary, I think it is coming to the United States. It'll be on Max or Netflix or something like that. But this was the first time that Marilyn Manson's attorney went on camera, and he talked a lot throughout the series. And in fact, I edited it all down and spliced his scenes together and put it in one video. It's not on my channel. It was a copyright issue, but you can find it on my Instagram and on my highlight reel on Twitter. He makes a great case for Manson. So he has defended him well. I do wish he'd go a little more Brian Friedman. I do think that Brian Friedman is at the forefront. He is a pioneer, and people like him are pioneers in this new era of legal PR warfare, this hybrid that I've been talking about on here that we're seeing, where the main point now of filing a lawsuit is not even to win the lawsuit. It's to create a forum in which you can, in front of the media and in front of the public, you can present your claims and your evidence and your arguments. So Brian Friedman is doing an amazing job. I did see that Ben Chew, Johnny Depp's attorney, one of his attorneys and the main attorney during the trial, I did see that Ben Chew was talking about how new, and what's the word he used? He didn't use the word risky. Well, let me find it. Let me find the article 1 second, because this brought up a little bit of controversy about Ben Chew and about Brown Rudnick, what he said about Blake Lively, about Justin Baldoni's strategy. Okay, let me get the article up. We can read it together here. Again, sorry if you hear that drill or whatever. Someone is drilling or sanding or something next door, but it is what it is. Okay. Okay. Johnny Depp lawyer says Justin Baldoni's bold in Blake Lively battle is very aggressive. Okay, let's see what he actually said. So, one of Johnny Depp's lawyers is weighing in on Justin Baldoni's latest legal moves in his ongoing legal battle with Blake Lively. Benjamin Chew, who represented Depp, 61, during his 2022 civil trial against ex-wife Amber Heard, appeared on the Tuesday, February 4th episode of the Law and Crime Sidebar with Jesse Weber podcast to discuss the latest updates in Baldoni and Lively's legal battle. When Chew, hello, Scarlett, what's up? Scarlett's like, nah, I don't have to be married to that loser anymore. No, I'm not talking about Colin. She's still married to him. I'm talking about the other one, Ryan Reynolds. Benjamin Chew, who represented Depp, 61. Okay, here we go. When Chew was asked for his opinion on Baldoni's decision to publish a website containing an amended complaint. So y'all remember this. Baldoni's team put up their website and a timeline. Really wasn't that big of a deal, honestly. You know, this is something that all lawyers, I think, should be doing. But when he was asked for his opinion on that, as well as an exhibit labeled Timeline of Events, Ben Chew said, I agree, bold, aggressive, chutzpah, whatever the right term is, I think it is very aggressive. Usually you would not do something like that before a hearing. All right, and then it says... And then he says, but I'm sure that they vetted it, meaning Baldoni's team, vetted it carefully. They vetted the material carefully. Certainly posting a pleading doesn't seem to be out of bounds. These are pleadings made in the public records, Chew added, of Baldoni's lawyers' pre-hearing actions. Quote, whenever you're getting into work product or advocacy pieces, then I think it's getting closer to the line. So it's a novel approach, a bold approach. And then he says... Chew declined to say which side believes might have the stronger case, but he noted that he believes either side can benefit from, quote, the more they can cite to audio tape and videotape, unquote, as much as possible. Exactly. And who's the one who's been able to do that most effectively so far, right? Baldoni, by a long shot. Quote, whenever you can hang someone with their own language and they're in a position of having to explain that they didn't really mean what they said, he added, he, quote, you know the cliche, when you're explaining, you're losing. So I think on both sides, whenever they have actually used videotape, audio tape, or used the actual words of the other side, I think that's a good day for them. So mostly this sounds very positive. It just sounds like there's a little bit of a sense of caution here. He's like, yeah, some of this could be a little bit to the line, and it's certainly a bold approach, certainly aggressive. Well, there are some people, as you know, if you're in the Johnny Depp, Justice for Depp community, that have been critical of Brown Rudnick and of Benjamin Chew for not, they say, advocating a nearly as aggressive approach as Johnny Depp's prior attorney and good friend, Adam Waldman. And of course, some of you will remember that Adam Waldman ended up being removed from the case by a judge when it went to Virginia. And I don't even want to get into the reasons for that or the long story or what have you, right? But anyway, so the other day, a couple of people who have been critical of Ben Chew used this opportunity to say, yeah, Ben Chew, and this is the kind of advocacy, aggressive, pioneering, media-oriented, that you should have been engaging in. This was the kind of advocacy that Adam Waldman wanted to engage in, was trying to engage in, and got sort of slapped and sidelined by the judge and by you, Ben Chew and Brown Rudnick, for engaging in, right? And of course, one of the people who was saying this is Andrea Burkhart. Let me just bring up, who is a favorite guest of mine and friend of mine, and we go way back, you know, with the Depp Heard stuff. Still love to have her on my show, by the way. I'm always asking her to come on and talk about Baldoni versus Lively, but I can't. I have not been able to get her yet. Oh, I need to sign into Twitter. Well, I'll just tell you what she says. Okay, I signed out. I'm going to sign in again. So basically, that was what Andrea Burkhart, the YouTube lawyer and lawyer in real life, but YouTube lawyer, said, is that it would have been nice if Ben Chew would have been this aggressive in defending Johnny Depp. Now, I totally understand that perspective, and I have been at times vocal about my frustration with Marilyn Manson's lawyers and his PR at times for not, as I said, being more, I think, aggressive with the media narrative there. I would love to see Marilyn Manson's lawyer, Howard King, getting out there like Brian Friedman. But that having been said, caution is often the better part of valor in a lot of cases. And so, I get the argument. I think maybe what was going on, though, with Ben Chew, in terms of not being as aggressive as Adam Waldman, is that there were already so many people out there doing that for him. There was the entire Justice for Johnny Depp community that was out there doing a giant PR operation for Depp. I don't mean Depp was paying for it, right? But I'm just saying, like, on our own, there were so many of us out there doing really aggressive PR. And so did Depp need a lawyer to be so out front and aggressive? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. Again, I just don't really know what to think in this question of whether or not Brown Rudnick in some way dropped the ball or they didn't. But this has definitely revived that. And it all just goes to show you that what Brian Friedman is doing, it is really pioneering. It is really aggressive. And of course, you understand that he is working in tandem, I'm sure, with Baldoni and Wayfarer's publicist. So those two publicists that are suing Blake Lively and are being sued by her, right? Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, and are also being sued by their former boss. But their former boss, from what I've read, is so that's a whole interesting other topic that I'm going to get into, and I'm working on for a future video. What's going on with all these publicists and the whole publicist drama and all of that. But Brian Friedman, Baldoni's attorney, is working in tandem with these publicists, and they have a top-notch, fully funded operation going on, right? Because again, backed by Wayfarer, backed by Steve Sarowitz, this billionaire. And so, as I said before, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they have fucked with the wrong hombre. We've got some bad hombres in the best sense. They have fucked with the wrong people, and now they are finding out. So that's interesting. But that is what Ben Chu had to say. I'd much rather hear Ben Chu on the subject than Elaine. That umbrella guy and I already broke down what Elaine did with her stupid fake AI. That AI background really was terrible. Do y'all remember that? Let me bring this up. Trying to find it. She had that fake. I guess Elaine was trying to make it look like she was a part of some high-powered like New York law team or whatever. Just a second. I'll be right back. Hold on. Yeah, here it is. I found it. It's terrible. I mean, she's just trying so hard. She's trying so hard, poor Elaine, to seem legit. And she's got this, look at this terrible, sorry. Oh man. If you want to see more of that, Tug and I talked about it on an earlier stream. So you can just look up the one I did several days ago with Tug, that umbrella guy. We laughed at her a lot. Okay. Anything else with Taylor Swift and Baldoni we want to hit? I want to talk about a little bit of wider drama going on. Kanye West, yay or ye? Wait a minute. Is it Kanye? So it'd be yay, right? Oh man, I had the worst timing the other day. If you watch my Instagram, if you follow my Instagram stories, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Because initially, Kanye started all this tweeting initially with just that first tweet that said free Puff. And then free Puff, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, Diddy. And then after that, there was the announcement that he was going to be doing a collaboration and like a clothing line collaboration with Sean Combs. And then then he did some tweets like promoting the Sean John line or whatever, right? Well, I tweeted after I saw that, before he had started tweeting any of the other stuff, I saw the free Puff thing, and I posted on Instagram that I have known forever that I cannot touch the Diddy thing, because people will totally, not everybody, but a lot of people will misunderstand, and it's just going to ruin my credibility to try to get into that whole can of worms. But that I respected the courage of Kanye to go out on that limb that no one will go out on, even people who might privately say, yeah, there's a lot of problems with the government's case, and this is shady, right? What I'm talking about, what he's being accused of in court. But nobody will publicly go out on that limb and in any way try to argue that there's a government overreach, or that Sean Combs shouldn't get a life sentence or anything. Like, no one is touching that, because everybody is so caught up when it comes to Sean Combs in all of the rumors and the gossip and all of the BS money grab lawsuits. Not all of them are. Cassie's wasn't. I'm sure that several of the others aren't, but most of them, when you read them, and that it's like crazy BS money grabs, right? But no one has the courage to call out any of that for obvious reasons, because Diddy is on camera, Sean Combs is on camera beating up his girlfriend. And no one is interested in defending that. No one wants to defend that. No one should defend that. And so even though I, as a libertarian, think that the government case against Sean Combs, if you actually look at their case, it's basically, it comes down to consensual. It looks like it comes down to consensual prostitution and drugs. And they're going after him on racketeering charges for that. And that's what he's going to get basically a life sentence for, if he gets a life sentence. And I do, as a libertarian, I have a problem with that. I don't think that it should be consensual activity like that, that sends someone away for a life sentence. If the government were charging him with domestic violence, if they were charging him with beating up Cassie, like we saw in that video, or any of the other things that people have been gossiping that he does. People like to gossip that he sexually assaulted Justin Bieber, even there's absolutely no evidence of that, but people just love to speculate on all these things. And I do think that it's overblown, and that the guy, do I think he's a bad guy? Yeah. And do I think that it was terrible that he beat up Cassie and beat up other girlfriends? Yeah, I do. But there is also a part of me that just foundationally, based on principle, doesn't think that the government should be able to do what they're doing, because they're not going after him for DV, and they're not going after him for any of the things that people are salivating over. They're going after him for what I think is actually consensual prostitution. So that's just me. It's a deeply unpopular opinion, I know. And that's why I don't publicize it. And, but when I saw that Kanye was willing to go out on that limb and in any way speak up against what is happening to Sean Combs in our legal system, I was so impressed by that. And so I said I posted an Instagram story, and I said this, I said, I will never say a bad word about Kanye West again. He had courage to say something that no one else has courage to say. And I respect that. And then as soon as I put that up, then he starts all of the anti-Jew posts. And then he starts making light of the beating of Cassie. And of course, you saw that he was even offering merchandise. If you go on his Twitter, Ye was offering, I don't know if he took it down or not, but he was offering merchandise. It's the sweater or the sweatshirt or whatever that Cassie was wearing in that horrible elevator video when she was beaten by Sean Combs. It's that horrible sweater that she was wearing, and Kanye was offering that as merchandise. And then he was trying to explain that basically, this is what happens when you love someone too much. Imagine the kind of love that Puffy must have had for Cassie to have been pushed to this, or to have exploded like this, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, just for the last 2 days, right? Kanye's been tweeting the most ridiculous and offensive stuff. And so anyway, I just had to shake my head, because right after I posted that, and I said, I'm never going to say a bad word about him again. And then it's just like the tide, the gates opened, right? And it's just this just one after another stream of just terrible offensive stuff. So this is what I think about Kanye, y'all. I think that there is a serious man trapped in there. And I think that there is a man who has some serious points to make. Just like I think it's a legitimate argument to say that the government is overreaching on the Diddy thing, and that they shouldn't be giving a life sentence to someone for consensual prostitution activity. But at the same, that's a legitimate point that someone could make. But I think that what the deal is with Kanye is that he, psychologically speaking, there's this serious person, but then also there's this other person, almost like a split personality, almost like a Joker, in fact, right? That just loves dropping crazy ass bombs and watching them go off and watching people react. And I know people who know Kanye, and even a couple of people who know him fairly well. And I can just tell you, Kanye does not think that it is okay to beat up women. And so when I look at him making jokes about what happened to Cassie, what Sean Combs did to Cassie in that elevator in that hotel, when I look at Kanye making jokes about it, or making light about it, or explaining it, I think to myself, he's got to just be punking all of us. And when I see him posting photos of the Israelites in bondage, thousands of years ago in slavery, when the Israelites were in bondage to the Egyptians, the Pharaoh, and Kanye's posting pictures of this, and then he's saying that Jews were better off as slaves and stuff. Like I look at that and I think this guy is just so bored. He is so psychologically bored that he can only get off now, so to speak, by dropping these ridiculous bombs and watching them explode and watching them create waves. The same thing with showing his wife in various states of ridiculous undress every chance he gets. And so it's really unfortunate, because I think that there is a semi-serious or a serious man in there who maybe years ago had some legitimate points to make, or would have some legitimate points to make now if he wasn't constantly pairing that with the most offensive, ridiculous tweets and posts and proclamations. And so I don't know. Again, I look at him and I think this is someone who's very bored. He likes to brag about the billions of dollars he has and how well his albums sell and how much he's achieved, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what's happened is that the guy has achieved all of these things and he's bored. There's nowhere else to go. When you're on top, there is nowhere else to go. And so what's he going to do? Do another album? Been there, done that. Boring. What is he going to do? Get another Grammy? Boring. What is he going to do? Come up with another clothing line? Boring. Marry another woman? Boring. He's done everything. All that's left now is just to punk us all and drop these ridiculous bombs and watch them make waves in the culture. I just think the guy's very bored. Now, he does clearly have an issue with the Jews that goes way beyond being critical of Israel or critical of U.S. foreign policy. I do think that there is a difference between being anti-Semitic and being critical of Israel. I do not think that being Jewish is synonymous with or supporting Jewish people should be synonymous with supporting Israel no matter what, or supporting U.S. policy toward Israel no matter what, etc. I am not smart enough and not educated enough to even try to get into that whole Palestinian Israel debate. I'm absolutely not going to even touch that. But I will say that I think it's ridiculous to say that someone is an anti-Semite if just because they're critical of Israeli foreign policy or critical of the Israeli activities in Palestine. But I look at Kanye's tweets and they go way, way beyond that. This guy clearly, and he said it, this guy clearly has a problem with Jews. And I don't know what else you would call it but racism. I don't know what else there is to call it. He says, I've got a problem with the music industry because they're taking too much money from me. Well, that's a problem with the music industry and the way that it's structured. It's not a problem with Jewish people, because I damn well can promise you that if you took every Jewish person out of the music industry and you replace them with non-Jewish people are still, the executives in the music industry are still going to be greedy, or they're still going to take more from you than you want to give them. This struggle between artists and executives and artists and record companies, record labels, this has been going on for as long as rock music has been a thing, or rap music has been a thing. And it's not a race issue. And I think, honestly, I think what's going on with Kanye and his anti-Jewish views is that this is a person who is still very much infected with the Black Hebrew Israelite religion. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. And Kanye West, back when he was going through the phase where he wore the really big beards and had all these guys around him with the big beards, that is a marker of the Black Hebrew Israelite religious church, if you want to call it that, or religious sect, or what have you. And one big pillar of their belief is that Jews, the people that we think of as Jews, have actually stolen their birthright from Black people. I don't have any time to even begin to explain that or get into it or talk about if there's any kind of kernel of truth to it or not. I think it's all crazy, but I haven't looked into it. But I'm telling you, this is what's fueling this stuff with Kanye, is that he used to be, when he was going through his religious phase, his hyper-Christian phase, he was very tightly aligned with and affiliated with and constantly interacting with Black Hebrew Israelite adherents. And so this anti-Jewish perspective, it is very, very strong. It is actually one of the central pillars of this church or this sect's beliefs. That's why it's called Black Hebrew Israelites, right? It's in the title there. So the problem with Kanye is that even though he's moved away from a lot of what we would identify as stereotypical Christian behavior, and I know he's posting all this porn on his page now, and he's sex obsessed, and he's back to having a porn addiction and all these things. I know that all that doesn't look very Christian, but this dogma, this Black Hebrew Israelite dogma, it infected his mind, and it's still in there. And so I think that that's what's fueling a lot of this. Plus, he's had a lot of, he says, negative experiences with Jewish executives in the music industry. He's oppressed by them. Well, dude, you just said you're worth $2 billion. If that's what being oppressed looks like, give me some of that oppression. I need some Jewish friends to oppress me in that way, because if I can be oppressed to the extent that I'll end up a multi-billionaire, bring it on. Bring it on, dude. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. So anyway, my feeling about Kanye is that nobody takes him seriously. And so if, whatever, I go to his page, I see all the stuff he's tweeting. Today it's a ton of porn and stuff. And I'm just like, wow, this guy is really bored. He's really, really bored. That's what I think about it. But it is a shame. It's a shame, but what you going to do? But he's getting a ton of attention. And I guess, again, that is his number one aim. I wonder if he's still hooked on the nitrous oxide. So you may or may not remember that one of his former, I guess you could say his spokesperson for a time, Milo Yiannopoulos, whatever you say his name, but Milo Yiannopoulos, he used to be, remember, working for Kanye in some kind of a PR role or spokesperson role or something like that, right? And they ended up having a parting of ways. And then Milo Yiannopoulos, he filed a legal complaint, and I can't remember what state that it was in. Here, let me bring this guy up if you don't know who I'm talking about. Some of you may not. Once you see him, you'll recognize him. And of course, this guy, my opinion of this guy is that he's absolutely nuts and ridiculous too. So I'm not promoting Milo Yiannopoulos here, but this is what happened. He used to work for Kanye in some PR capacity or what have you, and was a friend of his and everything. Oh, sorry. Here we go. This is Milo. He used to work for Kanye in some kind of a PR capacity or something, and they parted ways. And then this guy, Milo, he filed a complaint with some kind of medical board in some particular state. And basically it was an ethics complaint against Kanye West dentist. You might say, what the fuck, his dentist? Well, Yiannopoulos claims that this dentist has Kanye hooked on nitrous oxide, the dental laughing gas that you can get for a procedure, that he has him hooked on this, and that he regularly delivers huge canisters of nitrous oxide to Kanye's house. In fact, Yiannopoulos even included some text evidence, as I remember, or DMs between Kanye and this dentist, where Kanye is basically saying, hey, dude, you're late with the nitrous. I thought you were supposed to deliver some canisters to my house last night, to which the dentist replies, oh, sorry about that. I'll be right over. Isn't it frustrating when your dealer can't get your shit on time? Tough times. You can be worth $2 billion and you're still waiting on your dealer, apparently. Now, y'all want to see what this dentist looks like? Because he does not look like my dentist. I'll put it that way. Let me find this here. Kanye West dentist. Here we go. Okay, y'all, you ready? This is Kanye West dentist. And apparently not only did he perhaps get Kanye hooked on nitrous oxide, to which he distributes to him regularly in huge canisters at his house, but also Milo Yiannopoulos claimed that this guy has ripped off rappers and NBA players and cartel drug lords with fake diamond teeth. Because Milo Yiannopoulos claimed in this complaint that, one of the big things that this guy does, this dentist, is he creates these diamond grills for his clients. And so I'm sure that's why he presents himself this way, so he can look thuggy or whatever, right? So he's made a bunch of diamond grills, or whatever you call them, whatever the fuck you call them, for Kanye and for other rappers and for NBA players, and then apparently for drug cartel guys. Well, Yiannopoulos claims that the diamonds that this guy puts in these grills, or I should say implants, that the diamonds that he puts in there are actually far less valuable than the markup price that the dentist claims. So in other words, Milo was asserting in this complaint that Kanye West dentist lies to his clients about the value of the diamonds that he's giving them in their grills or implants or what have you, and that they basically are overpaying by a significant amount, that the guy is pocketing, this shady dentist guy is pocketing the difference between what he is paid, by these clients and what these grills and the diamonds in them actually cost and are worth. And Yiannopoulos even claimed that the way that this guy is able to do this kind of manipulation, is that apparently once these grills are in the mouth or these teeth are implanted, that you cannot do the particular x-ray or diagnostic that would be required to determine the value of the diamonds without potentially hurting someone, I don't know, radiation or something. And so generally, once these teeth are in or these grills are in, then his secret is sort of safe, basically. Now, I don't know how the hell Yiannopoulos knows all of this, and maybe it is BS, but honestly, it seemed like a really random thing, if this stuff is not true, to file this complaint with a medical board. Seems like a huge waste of Yiannopoulos' time if none of this stuff is true. But my point here is that if Kanye West dentist has him on nitrous oxide all the time, then maybe that's partly why, I don't like to blame things on drugs. I believe in individual personal responsibility. But if Kanye West is on laughing gas all the time, then maybe that's what's going on. Woo! Oh, my goodness gracious. My goodness gracious. Oh, man. Andrew Jacobs says, love Ye's first two albums. Other than that, yeah, FM. Yeah, I haven't been impressed with his music in a while. But again, I'm not the target audience. But yeah, again, it's just he seems very lost. He seems very bored. And he is shooting his causes in the foot, or in the head, I should say, with a number of these tweets. Because look, Kanye had an opportunity. He had a small window of opportunity there to shift the Overton window on the Sean Combs stuff. Again, people don't want to hear this, and I'm not denying that Sean Combs is a bad guy and he's beating up women or whatever. Again, but I think that the huge government overreach going on and what they're actually claiming and charging him with. But Kanye had an opportunity there to shift the Overton window on acceptable discourse surrounding Sean Combs, because up to this point, you really can't say the things that I've just said without a bunch of people misunderstanding you and saying, please don't say that. Please don't. Oh, look here. She's defending another guy who's guilty. No, I'm just using my fucking head and trying to think about things in a rational way, instead of flying off the handle because somebody said that Justin Bieber might have been sexually assaulted by Sean Combs, even though there's no evidence of it. All right. I still believe, y'all, in evidence and rational thinking. And, it's probably his karma for Sean Combs to have to spend a long time in prison if he's been beating up girlfriends, which we know he has because we've seen it, right? So it's not like I'm staying awake at night, saying prayers for Sean Combs. But I just, on principle, I don't like the bad law here, and I don't like the legal precedents being set, because what's going to happen is someday soon, these legal precedents are going to be used against someone that you like. Y'all, do you want to know how many stars, whether we're talking rock stars or rappers or we're talking movie stars, do you know how many stars you love who have used escorts and prostitutes? A lot. Even some of the good guys you like. So if we're gonna start giving people life sentences for having sophisticated prostitution game, bad precedent, whatever. But here's my point. Kanye had the opportunity to shift the Overton window on this when he tweeted that free Puff thing. He could have taken this in an entirely different direction, where he doesn't excuse what Puff Daddy or Diddy or whatever Sean Combs did to Cassie in that video, where he rightly says this is terrible. Any behavior like this is terrible. I do not support this. But then where he could make some of the points that I've tried to make about the problematic nature of giving someone a life sentence for prostitution, consensual prostitution. He could have made these points. He could have done a lot, I think, to have helped his friend, Sean Combs, but instead he blew it up with his ridiculous, retarded antics, selling merchandise based on that hotel beating video. Ridiculous. So, Kanye, I said I would never say another bad word about you. I guess I got to break my word on that, because my God, I didn't think you were going to lose your mind like this. And I guess there's no one around him that he'll listen to, because again, he's getting off on this. He's bored. He's getting off on it. That's what's happening with a lot of these tweets, unfortunately. That plus the Black Hebrew Israelite ideology that he needs to just cut loose, but he can't do it for whatever reason. Okay. All right, moving on. Bill Belichick. It's what you've all been wanting to talk about. No, I don't know that anyone really wants to talk about it, but I want to talk about it. Let's bring up this photo. Actually, let's take a 5-minute break, y'all. I feel like I can go for a while, maybe another half hour, 45 minutes, but I do need a little break, get a little coffee, get some stuff set up here to show you. So we'll talk Bill Belichick. We'll talk Marilyn Manson a bit. He's starting his European tour. He's sighted in the airport looking like Gary Oldman in Dracula, in my opinion. I mean that as a compliment. And then, yeah, I'll read your chats too. I'll try to go through the chats and see what's going on. So let's take a 5-minute break. I'll be back. And oops. And in place of me, let me find an old video or something. What can we do here? What can we do here? All right, I'm going to put on an old video of mine, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. All right, and in the meantime, enjoy this video that I put up now. Of a whole lot. So Blake Lively does not want to be deposed by attorney Brian Friedman. Yeah, that's shocking, right? Neither would I. Basically, you're going up against the legal equivalent of the Terminator. But look, this is part of the legal and PR and psychological pain that comes your way when you do what Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have attempted to do to Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer and a bunch of people, or what Amber Heard, for instance, attempted to do to Johnny Depp. This is what you open yourself up for. And these people like Blake, they don't think at the beginning, because they're just so full of their own anger or outrage, or if some people are to be believed, marital drama, or having issues with their jealous husband, or whatever the case turns out to be. Many people have speculated on it. Let me straighten up my setup. Many people have speculated on it, but whatever it is, it got Blake Lively into such an irrational decision-making state, she and Ryan Reynolds, that they thought that this was a good idea to open the can of worms that they have opened. And now, like, again, let's let the dogs of war. Once you do that, you do not know where those dogs are going or if they're going to come back to bite you. And that seems to be what's going on here. And so, yeah, you don't want to be deposed by Brian Friedman, Blake Lively. And unfortunately for you, this is just one tiny part of a whole lot of pain that's coming your way in the upcoming months and I think years because of what you've done. And that's why I keep saying, stop escalating it, de-escalate, get out, apologize. But I know you're not going to do that. But yeah, it is intense, and that's why it is so still shocking to me and so many people that this is the course that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds elected to take when they absolutely did not have to or need to. And whether they were doing it to get movie rights for Colleen Hoover books, as I know that recently Candace Owens was speculating, and then for a month or so, some others like Ari Jacob have been discussing, whether it was for that reason or it was due to, the fury of a woman in some way scorned, or jealousy by Ryan Reynolds, or whatever, or just genuine narcissistic, ego-based, artistic differences, or probably a perfect storm of all of these, whatever the motivation was. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were so out of their minds with irrationality on this to think that this was a good idea, especially with all of the crazy stuff that it sounds like Blake Lively was doing behind the scenes. And yes, maybe also it seems Taylor Swift. This is the thing that I am interested in as far as the Taylor Swift situation or her relationship to all of this. I didn't think that there was anything that could really damage Taylor Swift's brand PR wise. I mean, I know that I've thought she's annoying as hell for a while now, and there are others like me, but in general, it just seemed like she had an absolutely unshakable PR brand, Taylor Swift. And what I'll say about these little nuggets in Justin Baldoni's lawsuit, referring to her not explicitly, but referring to her, and some of the things that people have been saying, speculating online about, and pointing to with the rumors of the firing of the composer due to Taylor Swift's personal animosity toward him, and perhaps extensive role that some people say she might have had in this Baldoni mess and plotting behind the scenes or whatever. But I am really interested. I mean, okay, that's interesting and going to be paying attention to it. But I'm actually more interested to see, are there some seeds in here that are going to, some weeds in here that are going to really sprout and are going to cause her eventually some significant PR damage? And Taylor Swift behind the scenes, y'all, she has to be hoping that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds come to their senses and try to settle this shit immediately as fast as possible, because Taylor's. You can watch more of that later if you want. It's the video entitled Blake Lively Terrified of Terminator Lawyer. That's right. Brian Friedman, he's terrifying. All right. By the way, that makes me think of the video I put out the other day about Ray Donovan. That threw some people for a loop when I said Ray Donovan sues Blake Lively, but that's kind of what this Jed Wallace guy he's been described as. He was described in that one article that I read in that video as being the kind of guy that can get your kid out of Bolivia if he's stuck in Bolivia, but apparently spends a lot of his time trying to get celebrities to get off drugs. Now, I had some pushback to that video from some Bam Margera defenders. And apparently there is a documentary series right now that gets into Bam Margera and this sort of semi-conservatorship that he was under, or rather this agreement that he had to make with the movie studio in order to be allowed to be a part of the Jackass Forever movie. Bam had to agree, and he was in rehab, had to agree to this treatment plan. And apparently this Jed Wallace guy, who has just sued Blake Lively, that this Jed Wallace guy was involved in. And look, I don't have time to get into the ins and outs of the Bam Margera thing. I really don't even care. But I'll just say that that when someone is in rehab, they're in rehab for a reason. And so what happened was, reading between the lines, is Bam Margera, and you can look at his history, he is a wildly destabilizing force on any movie set that he is a part of, or anything that he is a part of. Wildly destabilizing, and he's been accused of all kinds of things. I don't want to get into that rap sheet, but this is someone who was in rehab for a reason. And basically what I read is that the studio was kind of at its wit's end, and Johnny Knoxville and the makers of this thing, Spike Jonze, were at their wits' end, and they did not. They were at the end of their rope with Bam Margera and his antics, and so they basically went to him in rehab with this kind of do or die, take it or leave it proposition. Okay, if you're going to be on the film, then you have to agree to this kind of supervision plan, and you have to agree to these interventions, and you have to agree to talk to Jed Wallace, the Ray Donovan guy, on FaceTime every day and take this medication. Well, he agreed to it. Now he can claim, well, I was in rehab and I was not in my right mind or whatever. Okay, but you agreed to it. And no one, and you agreed, by the way, to do it because you wanted to be in the movie. No one's forcing you to be in the movie. So yeah, it would be one thing, y'all, if Bam Margera was at his house minding his own business, and all of a sudden this movie studio burst in and says, we're kidnapping you and you have to do all this shit that we want. But that's not what happened. Bam Margera wanted to be a part of this project. He had proven himself over and over to be completely not only unreliable, but a wildly destabilizing and aggressive, even, yes, at times violent force. And so they said, take it or leave it. You either come on board under these conditions or you don't. And then he ended up not liking the conditions, and he sued the studio. But you have to be careful of just going with what someone alleges in a lawsuit, right? That's why you have to actually like analyze the claims. And one of the claims that Margera made was that he was subjected to these traumatizing phone calls with Jed Wallace, traumatizing FaceTime calls. I'm sorry. Someone cannot traumatize you that much over a fucking FaceTime call. They just can't. And so it sounds like to me, it sounds like to me that Bam Margera had done a lot of crazy shit and that people around him were at their wits' end and didn't know what to do. And they called in some people as sort of a last resort to help get him straight or keep him straight, and he agreed to it. And then he ended up getting fired from the picture because he had taken stimulants. Now he claims it was for his ADHD. Well, if it's a prescription, that's one thing. But we all know that ADHD medication is speed. You might as well be snorting cocaine. So you've got a guy who has already dropped the ball when it comes to sobriety and created huge problems and delays and stuff on sets before, and is a wildly destabilizing figure, even accused of assault and things like this. And he promises from rehab that he's going to be sober. And then guess what? They find that he's been taking powerful stimulants. And so they fire him. Now, did they fire him technically because of the stimulants, but really they wanted to get rid of him because he had just been such a problem on set and behind the scenes? Either way, I don't care. The guy brought it on himself. So possible I'm totally wrong about all this, but I don't have the time or the inclination to research it. But just from the little that I've read and looked into, Margera's claims don't ring true for me, or they seem ridiculous. And I think that this is just a money grab because he knows, like a lot of people know, that all you have to do is file a lawsuit and make some real showy claims and talk about them and advertise your claims in public. And then you can usually get a settlement. You can usually bring a studio to its knees. And so he got a settlement, right? He got a settlement. He dropped the claim. So I don't know what the hell happened to Bam Margera, but from what I've read, it certainly seems like he was the shady one in these situations, right? If he's claiming that he was traumatized by a FaceTime call, by having to do some FaceTime calls with Jed Wallace, then I'm just going to say, And also, if he claims that he really didn't want to sign this document, but he had to, and he was in rehab and didn't know what he was doing, I would say, why were you in rehab? Was it because you had been part of a long-standing pattern of extremely unpredictable, destabilizing, problematic behavior? You know, why did the studio and Johnny Knoxville have to come to rehab and basically beg you to take this plan? You were just minding your own business, totally innocent. You hadn't been causing any problems, Bam Margera, and people just started picking on you? No. So I have no sympathy for that. But maybe one day I'll check out his documentary and see what I'm missing. Okay, Bill Belichick. Let's go. I want to talk about this couple. Here we go. So this is Bill Belichick, the former coach of the wildly successful New England Patriots, and he was Tom Brady's coach for many years. Now he is the football coach at the University of North Carolina, my alma mater. Did my graduate work there. Beautiful, beautiful place. Nothing like the Carolinas, especially in the fall. But anyway, so he was spotted walking around the Super Bowl, or maybe this was post or pre-Super Bowl activities with his girlfriend. Now let's look at some other pictures, but look at the tweet here. This is really a knock. NFL Memes tweeted Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend walking around with an Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl 51 champions shirt is almost as crazy as Bill having a bigger rack than her. Ooh. Dude, the rack comment. That's gotta hurt. That would hurt me. I tell you, I have a pretty thick skin now doing all this YouTube stuff, especially even with physical comments, people making fun of my nose or this or that, or my hair or my crossed eyes, whatever. I have an eye defect that I was born with, in case you wonder why they occasionally cross. Anyways, none of that really gets to me, but this would get to me if I were Bill Belichick. And look at how many people viewed this thing. It's got 5.8 million views. 5.8 million people have seen this post calling out Bill Belichick for having a bigger rack than his girlfriend. Okay, so here are my many thoughts. And by the way, let me call up another picture of them that kind of, I think, we can call up some more. So they do have a tremendous age difference. She is 24 and he is 72. And let me pull up some other pictures of them. She's very proud to be with him. She has talked about how she loves fighting with keyboard warriors, and she loves standing up for him or standing up for their relationship, etc. Here, I'll give you a bigger picture. So here's how I feel about this. Okay. I defend anyone's right to engage in a consensual relationship if we're talking about adults. And I understand that different countries and different cultures have different ideas, and different time periods have different ideas about when someone might actually become an adult. And I tend to be much more, in my view, liberal about age. And I think that the European model, in my view, I know this is unpopular with a lot of people, but in my view, the European model of 15 being the age of consent, I'm fine with that. But I understand our country, people want it higher. I do think it's gotten ridiculous that now, even if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, people talk about these ages as being a child, like Evan Rachel Wood claiming that she was just a child because she started dating Manson when she was a tail end of 18, and then when she was 19, just a child. No, ma'am. Especially not with all of your experience that you had had prior to that. I'm talking about in the industry and, yes, dating. Anyway, so I have no problem in terms of morality of something being right or wrong with this setup here. 72-year-old man, 24-year-old woman. I see nothing immoral about this. Nothing immoral, and nothing that they should be socially, censured about or criticized for in that sense, or any kind of scarlet letter. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, I know some people like to say, well, she's so much younger. She has less life experience. Her brain, I hate this one. The brain isn't fully formed yet, or whatever. When you're 24, it actually almost is, right? But people like to say that stuff. Okay, y'all, but also someone of this age and this beauty has tremendous advantages over the man as well. So let's not pretend that this is some poor, innocent, naive, I don't know anything about the world, I can't make my own choices woman, that this older, calculating rich guy, this Bluebeard, if you know that literary reference, this Svengali has come in and taken her over. That is absolutely ridiculous, and I will not take that seriously. I will not consider it. But I do think, and look, let's be honest about the fact that it is likely that if he were not wealthy and famous, then she would not be standing next to him right now. Is there like the tiniest chance in the universe that she could be genuine in her affection for him, in the sense that it's not linked to his power or status or wealth? I mean, she did date an older man before him. If you look up her ex-boyfriend, he also was well advanced in years. I think he was in his 60s, but you can look it up. Older guy too. There's a small, tiny category of women who legitimately would be attracted to someone of this age, apart from the whole status wealth thing. So I'm not going to deny it can't happen. I mean, look at the mother of Al Pacino's child. She has dated Clint Eastwood when he was very old. She dated Al Pacino. She's dated another guy, Nicholas Berggruen, a billionaire. All of these guys in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? And I'm talking about Al Pacino's ex-girlfriend, mother of his child. Now, people assumed that she was a gold digger, but in fact, she is obscenely wealthy herself. That's how she met these guys, and she travels in the same circles. And she's a big movie producer, very successful, tons of money, family money, whatever. So she would be, to me, and if you want to see her picture, let me call this up. Al Pacino girlfriend. Now, they aren't together anymore. She is the mother of his child. But this is who I'm talking about. Noor Al-Fala has dated Clint Eastwood, has dated some other old guys, and she's got a ton of money. I really do think in her case that she's just attracted to older men. She finds something about experience, wisdom, whatever it is, or maybe she had a crush on her grandfather when she's young. I don't know. But I have heard also from some people who run in her circles that she's just legitimately attracted to older men. So whatever. But generally speaking, if you see a pairing with a huge age gap, like what we're seeing with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, then generally you can almost 100% bet that it's the money and the status and the power and the celebrity that she's attracted to. Now, I know that she was a major in sports. She majored in sports philosophy. So, and she was, and And she was a cheerleader, also former beauty queen, but she was obviously interested in sports. Okay, I'll give you that. And apparently when they met on an airplane. She was seated next to him and they bonded apparently over their shared interest in sports and in sports philosophy. He even signed her sports philosophy textbook. So I'm not denying that they might not have some things in common, but yeah, I think this is a power thing. It's a status thing. It's a wealth thing on her end. Look, he's the only way that she would be getting photographed right now. Look at how much she's loving that. Look at how that outfit is not an outfit that you wear if you don't want to show off. She's loving every minute of it. He takes her to all these different fancy shindigs. He's got a yacht or a big boat. She gets to meet all these people. She gets paparazzi like she's a celebrity. I mean, she's loving it, right? So she's getting what she wants out of it. He obviously getting what he wants out of it. And no, I don't just mean sex. He has, of course, sex, but also I'm sure he has genuine affection for her, love, whatever, right? Love is very complicated, and it's not always a matter of the sort of high idealed, Shakespearean type love, but soul to soul. But it can often be a mixture, as we understand, of practical concerns and narcissistic concerns, and then also a genuine affection for the other people. And that's how it is. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I did say online in a tweet the other day that I do think there's a bit of delusion going on both sides. And I guess that's the only caveat here that I would present, is that I think that there's some things that they're both probably a little in denial about. He is probably in denial about the extent to which she is genuinely attracted to or affectionate toward him. And even though he's got to, on some level, either consciously or unconsciously know that it's the money and the status and the power and the opportunities that she's attracted to, I'm sure he tells himself also, or tries to tell himself, well, but she also really likes my personality, and she likes me for who I am too, or she's grown to love me and all of that. Yeah, I just think a big fat no on that. And so he needs to understand that for as long as they are together, there's going to be a big part of her that is not going to be his. And I'm not saying she's literally cheating on him, perhaps, but she knows, and he should know, that he is not her ultimate objective in life in terms of the kind of partner that she wants. He is a means to an end. He is a stepping stone. Now, if he understands that, he's okay with it, great. But I think at times it's very easy for some of these guys to be in a bit of denial, and then it ends up shocking them or surprising them when it turns out that, guess what? No, this woman really was just interested in everything but me and who I really am, right? And I would also say one more thing to Bill Belichick. Unless he is an extremely self-actualized person who really just does not give a fuck what other people think, it has got to annoy him at times or bother him to see people laughing about him having a bigger rack than his girlfriend, or how old he looks compared to her, or granddad and all of that. I'm not saying that he's not loving the sex that he's getting and whatever else, but there's got to be a part of him also that knows, or that should know, that as long as he's with her, he's going to be a laughing stock. And again, if you're happy, if you don't care what people think, great. But this is what I would say to him. He has to understand that when we all look at this photo, we are entitled to have a natural biological reaction to it. And this is what I mean. This is not the norm for a reason, this extreme age pairing. And I know there are a lot of men online who like to, brag that, oh, because I'm a man, that means that I can get young chicks much longer than you ladies. You're going to hit the wall much faster than I will as a man, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of men who are caught up in this delusion that by virtue of being men, that they don't have a wall that they're hitting, or that they don't have a wall that people perceive. But let me tell you, everyone who looks at this photo, Bill Belichick, everyone perceives the same thing, which is an ick. It's gross. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's gross. And it's because this actually, biologically speaking, is not an optimal situation. You are, from a biological perspective, too old for this woman. I don't mean morally. I don't mean ethically. Whatever, people be happy. I'm not having children, so I'm evidently not going along with the biological norm either, right? I'm going to go to my grave never having reproduced by choice, because I never wanted to have kids, and I stuck with that despite people trying to talk me into something that I knew was not right for me, and I'm very glad that I haven't. But what is the biological norm is not what we are presented with here. And so people have a natural, every time they look at you, Bill Belichick, and your lady, people are going to have nausea. They're going to have a sense of, I kind of want to throw up a little, or maybe I already have in my mouth a little bit. And you cannot say that they're just being judgmental, or they're just being losers, or they're just jealous or whatever. Yeah, there could be some of that in there, but in general, we're all having a biological reaction because this is not biologically optimal. All right. This is not the best. Yeah, maybe for what she wants, she thinks it's the best. You think it's the best. This is not the best. So you just need to understand, Bill Belichick. And again, you got to live your life. Don't let other people bother you. But you need to understand that as long as you're with this woman, until she starts aging a lot, and then by that time you'll be like dead or whatever. As long as you're with this woman, the basic primary reaction that everyone has when they look at you is going to be to your negative, and to her negative, frankly, also. And so if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. Great. And I preach all the time on my channel, you should live for your life for yourself and not for other people, because we're all going to be dead soon. So good for them. And as long as they're going to do it, be out and proud, right? Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Live your life. But he does have to cut people some slack and understand that these reactions are biological, and they're for a reason. There is a legitimate reason why when we look at this photo, we all feel icked out, and he has to just deal with that and accept that. Now, for her, what does she have to deal with? Well, she has to deal with the fact that no matter how much she can say it doesn't bother her, and she can say, I don't care what you keyboard warriors say, and all of that, and how much she's liking this attention, she has to understand too that every time people look at her in this pairing, they're going to feel icky about it. And I'm just not sure. I guess what I'm saying is that maybe now at the beginning of the relationship, or now that she's getting all this great attention, maybe it feels good now, but it's going to get old after a while. It will get old. I have dated someone when I was in my 20s, my mid 20s. I dated a guy who was in his late 40s, and he wasn't wealthy or powerful. He was just extremely smart and intellectual. And so I guess you could say in that sense, I was attracted to him for some legit reasons, right? But even as much as I liked this guy and was happy at that time to date him, be with him, et cetera, and didn't care what the world thinks, and I'm going to do my own thing, it bothered me to know that every time we went out together, people were looking at us. And every time we'd go out together, people who didn't know us would say, okay, so is this your dad? Or like they're trying to figure out the nature of the relationship and all that. It bothered me. Every single time it bothered me. And what happens is it starts to bother you more and more. And then you start thinking, I actually kind of miss being with a younger guy. I actually kind of miss a younger guy's body. I miss other things about a younger guy or whatever. I mean, I'm just being honest. And so I guess that they both, I would say, need to understand that unless this is an extremely, extremely rare, unique situation of a true soulful meeting of the souls, Aaron Taylor Johnson and Sam Taylor Wood, maybe Sam Taylor Johnson, I don't know, that this has an expiration date on it, and that more and more, the longer they're together, the negatives of this are going to weigh on them. Maybe not equally, but they are going to weigh on them. So that's my pronouncement on this. But overall, I think they should keep doing what they want to do, live their lives how they want to live them. We have no idea what this relationship really is like, or who's getting what they want out of it or not, or what have you. So if it's working for you, Bill Belichick, if it's working for you, Jordan Hudson, I say continue on, say fuck it to the haters. But I do think that in this type of relationship, there's generally a bit of denial on both sides. And also there's a denial on her side about how she is lowering the way that people see her, and even perhaps potential prospective future boyfriends, prospective husbands or whatever, may not all feel great about the fact that their wife or future wife or prospective wife is most publicly known for or associated with dating this old guy, and all the kind of gross reactions that gets, So anyway, there's always, for every action, there are negative consequences as well as positive. And so I just wonder with this couple if they're thinking about any of that. Be interesting to see. But anyways, I don't have a problem with this, whatever. And she looks like she's enjoying every minute of it. He looks like he's enjoying every minute of it. Have y'all seen the ring picture? So apparently, a year or two ago or whenever, he was sneaking out of her house, so to speak, after a hookup. He didn't have his shirt on. And apparently the neighbor's ring camera caught him shirtless, like sneaking out of her house or whatever. And so this went everywhere. And I think that, didn't Tom Brady or Rob Gronkowski or someone actually make a joke about it?
They were like, oh, and yeah, that poor girl's Ring camera when Bill was sneaking out of her house. Anyway, I mean, again, maybe it doesn't bother him. Maybe he's like, he feels like a stud. I've got this hot chick. You're all jealous, whatever. Let me find the Ring video. Or it's not a video per se. It's a camera. There we go. I know it's kind of fuzzy. Sorry, I can't give you high def Bill Belichick rack here, but there he is, sneaking out of her house. Now, I want to say one more thing too about Bill Belichick. He actually had a really beautiful ex that I think he dumped for this woman. They had been together for like 16 years, he and his ex, and she was a very attractive lady. She was more quote unquote age appropriate, very attractive lady. And their dating overlapped with him dating this Jordan girl. And so I think it's pretty clear what happened is he dumped this woman. He dumped his long-term partner for the younger Jordan girl. But I wanted you to see his ex because she was a beautiful woman. And there's a part of me that's just like, dude, you had a beautiful, devoted woman and was classy and all kinds, just it seemed like a really great partner. Yeah, she wasn't as young or hot piece of ass or whatever, but like you had this, and then you traded her for someone that I just don't see how it's going to work out long term. But maybe I'm just one of those, one of those haters that they just need to dismiss. But let me show you the ex-girlfriend. I think she's really attractive. Linda Holiday was her name. And they were together for, a long time, like 16 years. And she's not the hot young piece of ass that Jordan Hudson is, but she's a very attractive lady. And not just for her age, I think an attractive lady. So anyway, I don't know, but it's his life and he should live it how he wants for sure. They both should. Okay. Any super chats that I missed here? I am going to go because it's Super Bowl Sunday. I got to get ready for the big game that I don't care about. All right, everybody. I appreciate y'all as always. I appreciate my mods for being here, and y'all enjoy the Super Bowl or not, whatever you got going the rest of the night. And we're going to keep doing this. We'll be back at it tomorrow. It's going to be Monday. Hopefully we've got some new Baldoni news. I know that Blake Lively, people were saying that she is due very soon to file that amendment to her lawsuit in which she includes new evidence. Some people were saying that they thought she was going to do it Friday, but that deadline passed. But then others were saying Valentine's Day. So I don't really know, but apparently there is a lawsuit amendment, some new information that Blake Lively is due to or expected to this week present. So we'll see what happens there. Then Justin Baldoni he did that interview, right, on Gent Talk or whatever, and that's going to be coming out on the 10th, right, pretty soon, tomorrow, next day. So we'll have a lot to talk about. So everybody join me here regularly around this time, usually 3 Eastern. This time we bumped it back, usually 3 Eastern. So join me. All my links are below. Appreciate your tips and donations and support. And if you're just now learning about me, I do videos on all kinds of topics. Oh, one more thing. Marilyn Manson. I almost forgot. He was spotted in Switzerland, or going to Switzerland. He's got a show in Switzerland in the next day or two. He was spotted in the airport. It's going to take me a little while to find the picture, so I'll go over it on the next one. Get some more pictures from Europe, and we'll talk about them this next week. But anyway, kudos to him once again, getting out there, going on European tour, and I'm still working on the crossover Evan Rachel Wood / Blake Lively video, in which I'm going to examine their claims about things that happened on the sets of these movies and videos that apparently did not happen. So I'm going to be looking at those. And then I've got some other Baldoni videos coming out this week. But I will see you tomorrow for the live stream. Thank you to my mods, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.